Snow! Help! I can't get up!
Claiming the gospel. It was not established for protesting. And for anyone claiming to be a journalist covering the protest, I would say to Lemon, unless you're entering the house of the Lord to worship, you shouldn't be there. There is no justification whatsoever for any kind of ungodly behavior being displayed in God's house. I don't care what it is, and that includes playing the fake role of a journalist. This is another example of why I say, I'm going to continue to say this, I may even write to some of our representatives or senators about it or whatever, that every town and city ought to establish protest zones. That's areas in which protests can legally take place, and that would solve this problem. And when this is not done, we got to remember that when you give these people like Lemon an inch, they'll take a mile. The next thing you know, they'll be invading your neighborhood and come onto your property. That's because that without legal protection, they know no boundaries. Former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene was a guest on this Real Time with liberal Bill Maher, and she defended the arrest of Lemon. She said he went into a church, disrupted their worship, and then later in an interview compared them to white supremacists. That's not journalism, she said. Greene went on to argue that Lemon joined activists in harassing people in the middle of a church service and even provoking children to cry. And this is the one that really got my attention, folks. With regard to the church he entered, Lemon said, that's not my type of Christianity that I practice. I think that they're entitled, and that when that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy. Come on. I would ask Lemon, what is the type of Christianity do you practice, sir? When you went on to blast Christians, calling them racist, bigoted, homophobes, is that your brand of Christian? Now, just suppose this morning, just think about this. Lemon were to learn that the pastor of a church in Burlington, North Carolina, often preaches on sexual sins, and that includes those like the sin of homosexual behavior in which Lemon is engaged with his homosexual partner. Suppose the pastor reads from the scripture, 1 Corinthians 6, do not be deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals, nor sodomites, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. Suppose that Lemon were to call attention to that during the television interview, and as a result of that, a band of homosexuals decide to invade that Burlington, North Carolina church and interrupt the service, protesting against anyone who would dare declare that homosexual behavior is a sin. And just suppose that Lemon joins in playing the role of journalist. What does this mean? This is dangerous, ladies and gentlemen of Talkline. This is dangerous. Not only could the church be invaded at any time, but then the fabric of democracy has been destroyed. Because in a democracy, Christians should be able to worship in peace. The very name, Don Lemon, spells trouble. He's an agitator. He carries hate and race on his sleeve 24 hours a day. And one who, while at the CNN anchor desk, would dare refer to President Trump as being a racist. I would suggest he look in the mirror. Now, I want to conclude with a praise report. Yesterday afternoon, my next door neighbor knocked on my door. He said, I'm having somebody, Jim, to remove the snow from my driveway, and if you'll let us do it or whatever, we'll take care of yours as well. My neighbor happens to be one of color. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, we're good neighbors. Unlike the Don Lemons of this world, he and I don't carry hate and race on our sleeve. And I'll tell you right now, before that gentleman left my premises, I let him know, I love you, sir. Not just because he cleaned off my driveway. No, that's not the message. I love him for who he is, a God-given human being of color. And I want to say this morning in closing, we need to pray for those like Don Lemon, that they will come to the truth while on this earth. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when they arrive on the other side of eternity, they will then come to the truth, but it's going to be too late. They will have absolutely no defense whatsoever against participating in the disruption of a church service. Hope you have a wonderful and safe day, Mr. Harry. Thank you very much. God
Thank you very much. 222-9224. What Jim was talking about, Don Lemon, former CNN host, got fired from CNN because he made inappropriate comments about women, is what it was. And he lost his job. Well, he is being charged with violating the FACE Act, which is the Freedom of Access to Clinic Enhances Act. The offense, his role in live streaming and allegedly aiding the disruptive anti-ICE protesters that stormed the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota during a Sunday worship service. They interrupted the service to target a church pastor that they believe worked for Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which he did not. They were mistaken. Now, if Don Lemon heard about this and said he would cover it as a journalist, the first thing he should have checked was to see whether the pastor actually was involved in the in ICE enforcement. He would have found out he's not, so that they were going to the wrong church for the wrong reason. Well, sees a clear interference with First Amendment religious rights, which is exactly what the FACE Act forbids. But this isn't just enforcement, it's poetic justice. The FACE Act, signed into law by President Bill Clinton in 1994, was a Democrat Party priority born out of the outrage over the pro-life activism. Back then, the anti-abortion rescue movement was staging frequent sit-ins and prayer chains at abortion clinics, impeding the access to abortion services. Democrats led by Representative Chuck Schumer and Senator Ted Kennedy crafted the FACE Act in response to criminalize physical obstruction at reproductive health facilities, along with the use of force or threats against them. It passed with bipartisan support. 17 Republicans voted yes in the Senate, but make no mistake, this was a Clinton-era triumph designated primarily to shield abortion clinics from conservative protesters. But here's where the irony thickens. During the legislative negotiations, the law was broadened to add those same protections to houses of worship. The final version prohibits anyone from force or obstruction to interfere with a person's religious freedom at a church, synagogue, or similar place. So they're being charged with the federal offense of the FACE Act, which, we're going to see. I give a little. I've already been fussed at by several people for feeling this way. I want to wait and see what comes out. Because if Don Lemon was not participating in that, when he goes to trial, and we'll find out when the evidence is there whether he actually was a part of putting together the protest. If he was, it is a violation of the FACE Act. If not, he is a journalist, and he was serving as a journalist in that particular situation. He was, doing a job as a journalist. Then, charging him under the FACE Act is not the right thing to do by charging him. All right, 222-9224. WBAG, Burlington Graham.
That's the way I feel about it. I'll say this, certainly, if stupidity were a crime, he'd be getting life in prison for what he did. I think, at the very least, he is guilty of some trespasses over there, because I think, again, just my opinion, I'm probably going to stir some folks on this, I think he's hiding behind First Amendment and freedom of press. Mm-hmm. If nothing else, when he went in that church and the preacher was asking those people, and I saw this on tape, some of Lemon's own tapes, leave the church, he's violating the law right there. May not be the FACE Act. He's violating the law right there, because I don't care if you are a journalist. A journalist can't walk in your radio station out there and start filming and asking questions. If you or Joe ask him to leave, he's got two choices. He can leave or go to jail. So just because he's a journalist doesn't protect him from that. I think, in my opinion, that he's probably guilty of using the FACE Act, because I think he met with these people in advance. He taped himself meeting with these people in advance.
And it may sound petty, he even brought the coffee and donuts. Now, that doesn't sound like a disinterested party to me, or what a journalist should be, which is someone who's totally neutral and just reporting the news. He knew something was going to happen. He knew where. He knew when. He had to set up the stream. He bought the coffee and donuts, and he's out there smoking and joking with them before he goes in. I think he's right dead in the middle of it. That's
Well,
just
and my comment earlier, if you were listening, you probably heard it, but it's worth repeating again. You know, they said the reason they went into this church was because the pastor was involved with ICE. You know, as an employee, is what they said. Well, he was not. They were wrong about that. It was the wrong, same name, wrong guy. And if you're a journalist, you should have checked that out before you went along with it. That would have been something that a journalist would have done. They would have checked out. And so he failed to do that, which was the simplest of all things, is to find out whether the person that they were going in there because of was, in fact, the person that they thought he was. And that, to me, the thing is, I'm just waiting for the I want to watch the investigation. You know, I believe everybody is innocent until proven guilty, and it might look bad for him in some cases, but that doesn't matter to me. He's been charged. He's going to go on trial. Let's see what happens. To me, let the investigation go on.
I agree with you there. Now, I don't. You and I are perfectly in accord with that. But I can see him being charged because I think he totally crossed the line, and I think he's trying to hide behind, credentials of,
If everything that we know to be true is true, that has come out so far in this investigation, I think that's right. But it's not finished yet, and I'm willing to wait, and something else may come up.
I hope they report everything, accurately on this, because the media's a big disappointment to me over the years anyway. You've mentioned on your show before, they got the media on a national level has about the same approval rating as Congress, and you can't get much lower than that. And I'm seeing some of the things that's going on out there. The whole idea of going into the church and they did disrupt the services. I don't think anybody can argue that there was a disruption. But the things I'm seeing done now that need to be prosecuted, and if you bear with me one more minute, I'm going to mention one other thing I caught that was very briefly on the news, but the news media is not addressing this either. All these protesters, the anti-ICE protesters, I read a real quick thing about an incident in Minneapolis that occurred, I think it was week before last. A family was up there vacationing, visiting other family, and they had rented a Suburban because there's about 6 or 8 of them. Some of these protesters, these, quote, peaceful protesters, roadblocked them, forced them out of the vehicle, demanded ID to prove they weren't ICE agents because they weren't, they were dressed in regular clothes, to prove they weren't ICE agents, and searched their van before they released them to prove that they were ICE agents they're allowed to drive off. Now, Harry, that's got to stop. There's going to be problems on that, and, I'm not some tough guy, but when I'm traveling, I don't advise anybody to try and stop me like that and pull me out of the van and make me prove who I am, because it's not going to go well. And it's not going to go well with a whole lot of people. But I read the story about that, but our news media, our lapdog news media, is quiet about these sort of things going on over there. And it is the governor or the mayor up there call these peaceful protesters. That ain't peaceful protesting when you hold people against their will, force them out of the vehicle, and search them.
Yeah. All right.
There's no authority in that. But anyway, that's my spiel this morning, Harry.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care.
Have a good day.
You too. All right. 222-922-48. Because I have my opinions, I express my opinions, so they say that I'm just as guilty of being a narrative kind of broadcaster, But I go back and forth between, political parties and, back and forth. I'll blame people that I think did something wrong. You have to be, fair. Fair and balanced. It's the way you're supposed to be if you're going to do this stuff. Now, in the capacity of doing this particular program, you're a commentator. You're giving your opinion. And we at this radio station try to be fair because we let everybody on. We don't block anybody. We don't have any, so everybody gets to express their opinion. So if I have an opinion that you don't like, you can express your opinion against it. That's perfectly permissible and has been going on for 40 years on this program. Let me tell you about
Randy talk on the on Greenland effect, And everything he said is right on. The history part of it was right on the schedule. They don't know how to get along.
Except me and you, huh?
Except me and you. I think you're a cool guy. I ain't got a problem with you. Especially when you're riding around in your little blue car and being your own self. You know. I know what you feel when you're riding up the road in that thing. I know how you feel. And same way on the bike, when I'm out there riding, I'm just, hey, look, there ain't no comparison. And,
you know, it's funny you say that, and because you're exactly right. That's the way I used to feel when I was flying. You know, there was a time when I had 4 radio stations, and you know, just all kinds of people mad at me all the time, trying to get things done. You know, trying to, you know, be a good businessman when I'm a terrible businessman. And I used to get out in the airplane. I'm going to tell you something. There is nothing you can do when you're up there flying around in an airplane. It takes just about all the things that you're thinking about, even when you get good at it, to fly the darn thing. So you get your mind off of everything. And I used to just poke holes in the sky. I would jump in that airplane in Person County and fly over to Danville, land at I love to go down the river there and see all the mansions that are on both sides of the river that you don't really know are there, because a lot of them are ruined. Some of them have been redone, but you can fly right down the river, and when you get down to the end, the airport's just to your right over there, and you can just fly over to the airport. I used to do that, and I would get all my anxiety out. And you know, do you know what I do now when I'm all cooped up in anxiety and need to go fly the airplane? I go over to Super Save Paul and talk to them nice people. That's what I do now. That's how I get. That's how I get all after I'm messed up.
You got that in there. I'm telling you right now.
I love those people over there.
You did well too.
All right, buddy.
But hey, look here. You know, they talking about you know, America right now has got a lot of stuff going on all over the place. You know, and if as a president, if you're not thinking ahead and trying to look at this big picture, and here in North Carolina, we just look at North Carolina. We don't really look at the whole United States and what's going on with Canada and Mexico. We hear about it, but we don't look at it. We don't take a hard look. Well, you know, Cuba's going to be set free for 2 months longer. Before Trump comes out of office, Cuba will be set free.
As far as Cuba is concerned, it's never been about the people. It's been about the Castros, Fidel and his brother, that have caused so many problems over there. So it was the government that was the problem, not the people. We've always...
Oh, exactly, yeah. And I think that regime is going to change and before Trump leaves office.
Well, we'll
and it would be nice if you could just go down and take a vacation and go to Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's right, what, 90 miles from?
90 miles off the coast of Florida.
Yeah,
right
so
there.
that's not no big deal, but that would be, Cuba would be like Greenland. You know, it's in a position where it needs to be part of the United States.
Or we can make a deal with them like we made with Greenland. They're not part of the United States, but we made a deal. And I think it's getting close to time to do that. I think the government down there is probably ready for it. We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
All right.
Stay warm.
I will. You too. Take care. 222-9224. Let me turn on top line.
Morning, how are you?
I am well. I hope you are.
Oh, pretty good. You know, I heard a couple of senators that are going to introduce a bill in the next week or so that outlaw sanctuary city. And, you know, I think that's the thing to do. And then, you know, if they don't want to cooperate, and I kind of feel like Tom Holman and President Trump feels about this. Look, if you don't want us in your state, and you don't want us in here trying to arrest these illegals and the criminals, then we'll leave. But when we leave, we want to leave everything we got with us. But we're going to take everything away that we have. You know, you're going to sit here and a mayor in a city and tell the federal government to get out of my city. We don't want you to arrest our criminals. We don't want you here. That's fine. We'll leave, but we're taking our money with us. And that's the only way you're going to stop these things. And just let them sit there and rot. Let them starve to death. Let them do the things that they want to do, run it the way they want to do it, run it. But no federal aid, bud. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, you're going against federal immigration law. And the only way to make that a law is to say that having a sanctuary city is against the law. And if you pass that and it's against the law, then you don't have any choice but to cooperate with ICE.
And the Most High God made some universal laws too, that your ass keep crossing. But you don't bring those up, do you? All you care about is whether somebody can do something wrong and get away with it or not, ain't it? That's all you care about. As long as you can do some damn evil and get away with it. That's all you care about.
Let all the people that get federal aid not get it, and I think you'll see some protests, but it'll be against them. Because they don't, the people that are there.
Oh, how naive we have become.
People that aren't protesting that you know, need federal aid, I don't think they're going to go along with it too good. You know, if you cut off all the federal aid and say, hey, you want to be a sanctuary state, here you go. You're on your own. You know, and just leave it like that and just say, hey, you didn't want anybody, you wouldn't cooperate with. I mean, the governor of New York has just signed something saying that she doesn't want any New York police officers, period, in the state of New York cooperating with ICE. That they're not going to turn over, they're not going to aid them, they're not going to turn over anybody that's in prison, they're not going to turn anybody over at all. That's fine. And then you got the socialist mayor up there saying he's $13 billion short in his budget. So now he's going to get all that money from the billionaires in New York, and he's going to be saying goodbye to all the billionaires in New York. But that's fine. Let these people see. Let those demonstrators, let those paid demonstrators see, and let the people that are out there protesting that live in those cities, let them see exactly what they can be brought on themselves. And, you know, I just found out that a lot of this money is coming from somebody that's a very wealthy U.S. citizen that's moved to China. And he's funding it from China. So, you know, we know it's coming from different places to nonprofits. We know millions and millions of dollars are flowing in here to pay these protesters. So, I mean, let them protest. I mean, you know, it is so ridiculous. Like I told you, I saw these few 20, 30 down here at City Park protesting ICE. Well, one of them was the newly elected city councilman or alderman, whatever they call him, in the city of in Elon, town of Elon. He just got elected. He's down there protesting ICE. I haven't even seen an ICE person in Alamance County. Rein him in a little bit. You know, I don't think he ran on the idea of being an Elon alderman to be a protester for ICE. And, you know, this is the kind of crazy stuff. Why would you be doing that? I mean, if you saw ICE vehicles going down Main Street or around in the communities or sitting in front of schools, it would be different. But it was not different. You still shouldn't protest them. But where have you seen him? You look foolish. You sat down there 45 minutes and nobody paid any attention to you, so you left. So, I mean, you know, this is the kind of thing that, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. But I would cut every dime because all they're doing in Minneapolis, you know this, and I do, they're just trying to distract from the fraud investigation. And, you know, they know the fraud's there.
and there's going to be some people go to prison over there. There's already people going to prison. And there's going to be some government officials go to prison. And, that's when, you're going to see it. And I think a lot of those protesters and people involved in those protests are people who benefited from that fraud. Mm-hmm. And they don't want them in there. They don't want anybody in there looking around. But, we'll see. But I hope that gets passed. I hope they pass it, that they're against the law. If you don't want to cooperate, we don't cooperate with our money either.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. 222-9224. On Talk Line. Good morning. You're on Talk Line.
Good morning, Harry.
Hey there. How are you?
I am just great. Out here playing in the snow like I was 10 years old.
Good.
This ain't got no sense at all. How about you, sir?
I've got no sense at all. That's absolutely. When it comes to playing in the snow, I'm just out there. The dog almost knocked me down playing in the snow yesterday.
Well, I had some of the grandkids over yesterday, and I have got 2 original Coca-Cola signs that we've been sledding on about, I'd say 50, 60 years. And
$2,000 signs, and you're out there sliding them down the river, making them less than valuable.
Well, like I said, about 50 years ago, we wore all red off of them. And since that time, I've repainted them black, and I've repainted them silver, and I've repainted them red again, but I ain't never repainted Coca-Cola on it. And I drilled holes in it so I could put some handholds in them. So I don't think they're worth much of nothing now. Got out there and I waxed them up real good, and those things flew from the back of my house all the way to the back road at the back of the house. And my yard cat, big old yeller, he would chase us. But the thing was, he was chasing us in jumps. He'd jump about 1.5 feet and jump about another 1.5 feet. And every time he caught up with me, he wanted his head rubbed. And I obliged him every single time. That's part of being a free man, to sled in your own yard. And, I defend everybody's right to be as stupid as they want to be. But when they start telling bold-faced lies, that's one thing my daddy taught me, and I know your daddy taught you. Don't lie. It's not worth the trouble. Because when you lie, you always got to tell another lie to cover it up.
But the thing is, we are free to tell people lies. We don't, except if it's the FBI, you're not allowed to lie to the government. But you can lie to other people, and it's not against the law.
Yeah. Well, I think it ought to be a law that the government can't lie to.
I do too. I had that conversation with a law enforcement officer who was ready to disagree, and I said, look, here's the deal. It's okay for the police to lie to you, tell you a lie, and get you to do something, and you say, well, if they lied to you, that maybe that's entrapment. No, that doesn't count. They're allowed to lie to you. But if you lied to them in some jurisdictions and to the FBI, you get in trouble. If you can lie if law enforcement won't let you lie to them, I don't think they should be able to lie to you.
That's why it's called the government of deception. See, the government is based on lies. They can lie to you all day long because that's what they made out of, lies. They don't tell you any truth. That's why the world is all messed up.
Well, I have voted in every election since I was 21. I've not missed a one. And I always vote for the people that haven't lied to me.
Well, you voted for Trump. I know that's a lie.
By the county commissioners here little old podunk frail.
Lied to, cheated on, and treated like dirt.
Well, I mean, it's my right to vote for who I want to.
Absolutely.
And the people that...
But he said he don't vote for people who tell lies. He voted for Trump, and that's the biggest lie that it is.
I saved a lot of stuff that they gave away. I listen to them when they talk in their meeting. And then when it comes down to vote up my taxes, you know, my city and county taxes are double what they used to be. And I don't make near the amount of money that I'm retired that I used to when I worked in a mill. So, I mean, I judge a man by his action. I don't judge him by his word. Because men do lie. But when you lie to me, you don't get my vote no more. You don't get my support no more. You don't get to put your signs in my yard. And, you know, it's just, you know, like old Superman says, believe in truth, justice, and American way. I said, you know, watching him on TV this morning, I said, you know, we all ought to go back to truth, justice, and the American way.
There you go. All right, appreciate it.
Just my feelings. Just
All
my
right.
feelings.
Take care. 222-9224.
Well, the only problem with that is they ain't never been able to tell the truth. They're not moral people, so they can't tell the truth. And you know everything they do is backwards. They're some backwards people.
WBAG, Burlington Graham.
You are listening to Gnostic 5 Senses Knowledge, Kings and the Queens Entertainment Education.
229-224. Give us a call and join in the conversation.
Harry, this morning you was talking about journalism, and you mentioned the cost of attending Elon, and you switched back to when you went to school, but you never did say how much it cost you to go to University of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things a journalist pick up, one of the habits that journalists pick up. Even if they'll talk about a grocery list, they cover everything. But you never did tell the people what it cost you. You went on to talk about Elon, but you never did tell the people what it cost you.
And you're exactly right, Charlie. And the reason I didn't was because the Elon numbers were exact. And I didn't remember the exact numbers. That's why I didn't do it. But you're right. It was right at $3,000 a semester. I just didn't remember the exact number. And I thought if I'm going to give exact numbers for Elon and I can't give exact numbers for Carolina, then that wouldn't be fair. You know, perhaps I was wrong. I just, you know, I hear
Okay. All right. Now, moving on to something else. I listened to Barry Friday. I listened to him today. And I've said many times on this station, no one has ever accused Barry of being a thinker. Barry does not understand organized protests. First of all, if you elected to some office, that does not take away your First Amendment right to protest. And just because there are no ICE people in Ossipee does not mean that that area should not be covered with protests. If you protest in that area when the ICE people show up, the people are already aware because of the protest. They're already aware of ICE and their tactics and whatever other baggage they bring with it. But Barry believes if there is no ICE there, you look foolish protesting. That's not the way organized protests will work. ICE is going to go nationwide. Illegal aliens all over America. There are illegals in Alamance County, There are Ossipee every city. There are illegals here. And ICE know that. And the people who are protesting ICE, they also know that. And that's why they are getting ahead by protesting all corners. But Barry can't seem to understand that. He come up with the most simplistic aspects of protesting, and he tops it off with a laugh, like he just did something. He does not understand the nature of protests. Take, for instance, the monks who's protesting world peace. They're marching for peace. Well, somebody could say all kind of things. Well, look, there's no wars going on here. Why are you marching through North Carolina and Virginia? No, that's not the point of the protest. They're bringing awareness all over to people who don't understand what's going on. They're bringing attention to where they go. Same thing with the protesters against ICE. Take the Vietnam War. The girl who was at Kent State needling over the dead student, she didn't go to Kent State. She was from somewhere else. But the protest was covering that area. And if you got organized protest, you make sure all the bases are covered. And if they say, well, look, there's nobody out in Ossipee, okay, we'll force somebody from Raleigh to go over to Ossipee for 3 days a week. That's the way organized protest operates. But Barry can't seem to understand that. He thinks it's, to him, it'll look like they're silly. There's no ICE people here. When's the last time you seen ICE? That does not mean ICE won't show up and the people be aware of what's going on. But then, like I said, nobody's ever accused Barry of being a thinker. Now, listen to what the Czech man said. He said he never voted for anybody who lied to him. Well, if he's been voting for the Republican kind of commissioners for the last 20 years, he's been lied to. His taxes are going up, not down, but he's voting for the same people.
Say
He's
so.
not voting for
Say
the
so.
Democrats.
Say so. Say so. He stood up there and just told us and lied on the radio. That's how darn ignorant he is. He voted for President Trump, and that's the biggest ass lie it is.
Somebody's not going to raise his taxes, then he's not going to vote at all. And when I hear people talk about lies, you're not supposed to lie. The art of telling lies is that you tell a good lie so you don't get caught. It's not against the law for anybody to lie until they get caught.
That's according to man's laws. Now, man's laws and the Most High's laws, now that's two different laws.
If somebody puts a gun in your face and says, let me have all your money. You hand them, they say, well, look, you got any more money? You're not going to say, well, I got $3,000 at home. Take me over there, we get it. You're going to say, no, that's it. I don't have any money at all. People are going to lie to save them. Politicians are going to lie because they don't want you to find out certain things.
I think that's one of the reasons.
Absolutely. But then there's sometimes they're not telling a lie. They say, well, taxes are about right. They didn't say they were right. They didn't say they was not going to vote for a tax increase. They just answered the question, do you think it's about right? Yes, about right. Well, what does about mean?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It could be just about wrong, too.
Yeah. Well, to me, I hear you, and that is correct, and that's what we call that is weasel words. They give you a weasel word that they can weasel out of later on when they raise your taxes. And I understand that, but to me, if you say it's about right, the first thought that I have is, okay, you think it's about right, so you're not going to raise any taxes, and you would be wrong in the instance of
No,
those.
see, you are assuming that's what they meant.
Yeah, I know, and I think that's a logical assumption, but it doesn't mean that that's what they could have said. That word, well, I think it's about right, knowing that the about part of it they were going to change and raise it. I mean, they could have been knowing that all along. It's just the whole thing about politicians, saying one thing and doing another has been going on longer than either you or I have been alive. So.
And politicians are not the only people who lie, too.
Oh, Lord, no. Everybody, as you pointed out so many times, everybody lies. People that say they don't lie are lying.
Yes.
I think that's interesting, Charlie. It really does. As we have to, as human beings, we have to push against our natural inclination to make up a story, don't we? We sort of got it, because all of us can do it.
But look, the world would be in a bad way if people didn't lie. Lying can turn out to be good sometimes.
Sure can.
I mean, look, people say you lie, they automatically think lies are good. But look, sometimes a lie can, like I just said in the beginning, a lie can save you from certain things. And look, people lie, spouses lie to each other. A man lied to his wife, wives lie to their husbands, and children lie to their parents, the parents lie to the children.
The preachers lie to the congregation, and the congregation test a lie to the rest of the congregation. Yeah, they test a lie. Not testify, they test a lie. Ain't that sad?
And say, so help me God. And I was talking to an attorney one day. I was being called to testify in this court hearing, and I was there, and they were waiting until after lunch, and he said, what's going on? What do you think? How do you think it's going? And I said, all these people are lying, and I said, the two attorneys here and the judge don't seem to care about it. And he said, Harry, don't be so naive. Everybody lies. And, I thought about you, Charlie. I really did.
And when a judge said that, a judge knows you're lying.
Sure.
He knows who's lying. Now look, if a judge and a guy was driving a car, all right, the highway patrol says one thing, the other guy say he was not. And somebody's lying. But usually the judge sides with the law enforcement officer, which sometimes lie through their teeth. But
fortunately for us in this times that we live in, there's a lot more tape than there used to be, and a lot of those lies are getting found out. And I think that's a good thing. Listen, Charlie, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you. Okay, have a great day. 222-9224 about people who don't tell the truth. Little kids naturally come up with stories that aren't true. It comes naturally to them. I wonder why. I wonder what it is. The natural ability. Oh, I didn't do that. No, it wasn't me. I think that's fascinating. You could do a dissertation to get your PhD on the art of the lie, and I think that'd be a great paper to write, because it's so fascinating that everybody lies, and sometimes the lies turn out to be good. It's like when your wife says to you, am I fat? You go, no. Whether she is or not doesn't matter. Just say no. 222-9224. Let me tell you about Lizzie's Plaything.
Hey, Jody, guess what? James Jr., guess what, boy? God is able to do exceedingly abundantly ever more than you could ever imagine or think.
They have to sit with their mouths closed now, and the silence is killing them. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. They have to sit with their mouths closed now, and the silence is killing them. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you, and the silence is killing them. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. The law has spoken, and everyone who thought they could gang up on you is learning why heaven keeps receipts. That ringleader at the center, the one who orchestrated this whole spiritual circus against you, sits abandoned while everyone else scatters like roaches when the lights come on. Someone has been told by law to shut up about you, not just advised, legally commanded to keep your name out of their mouth, not just advised, legally commanded to keep your name out of their mouth. That ringleader at the center, the one who orchestrated this whole spiritual circus against you, sits abandoned while everyone else scatters like roaches when the lights come on. Someone has been told by law to shut up about you, legally commanded to keep your name out of their mouth. This isn't one person catching karma. This is an entire community getting served papers they never saw coming. Not just suggested, not just advised, legally commanded to keep your name out of their mouth. This is an entire community getting served papers they never saw coming. The same mouths that wouldn't stop talking about you now can't say anything without their lawyers present. This is an entire community getting served papers they never saw coming. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. That ringleader at the center, the one who orchestrated this whole spiritual circus against you, sits abandoned while everyone else scatters like roaches when the lights come on. An entire community has turned their backs on the very person who orchestrated attacks against you. The law has spoken, and everyone who thought they could gang up on you is learning why heaven keeps receipts. That ringleader at the center, the one who orchestrated this whole spiritual circus against you, sits abandoned while everyone else scatters like roaches when the lights come on. Someone has been told by law to shut up about you. Not just suggested, not just advised, legally commanded to keep your name out of their mouth. This is an entire community getting served papers they never saw coming. The same mouths that wouldn't stop talking about you now can't say anything without their lawyers present. They're having to watch your cup run over while theirs runs dry. That pure blessing of contentment and happiness you're experiencing. They hate it. They despise it. They're choking on it. And the beautiful part is, they can't say a single word about it. They literally have to accept whatever this verdict is, whatever this ruling has become, and there's nothing they can do but watch. They're choking on it. And the beautiful part is, they can't say a single word about it. They literally have to accept whatever this verdict is, whatever this ruling has become, and there's nothing they can do but watch. There's a specific person at the center of this who tried to rile up the rallies against you. They attempted to group people together, get them on board with taking you down, but something fascinating happened. The community looked at the legal ramifications and said it's not worth it. It's literally not worth it. They've left this person isolated, forcing them to move forward alone. You know what makes this even sweeter? The way they organized against you revealed their own organizational structure. Every meeting they held about you became evidence. Every group chat where your name was mentioned became documentation. Every coordinated action they took left fingerprints all over the crime scene. They built the prosecution's case without realizing they were the defendants. The revelation that's breaking right now is about defamation. This is literal defamation coming through in the legal sense, not spiritual warfare dressed up as concern, not prayer requests disguised as gossip, actual documented legally actionable defamation that someone orchestrated against you. And they feel like it's really unfair that they're being held accountable for it. Watch the woe is me energy pouring out of them now. They did not get the results they thought they would. This smear campaign they organized is being proven as exactly what it was, a coordinated attack on your character, not spiritual warfare dressed up as concern, not prayer requests disguised as gossip, actual documented legally actionable defamation that someone orchestrated against you, and they feel like it's really unfair that they're being held accountable for it. Watch the woe is me energy pouring out of them now. They did not get the results they thought they would, and they feel like it's really unfair that they're being held accountable for it. Watch the woe is me energy pouring out of them now. They did not get the results they thought they would. This smear campaign they organized is being proven as exactly what it was, a coordinated attack on your character. There's no competition here anymore. They're realizing there never was competition. You were never competing with them. They were competing with their own projection of who they thought you were. They're realizing there never was competition. You were never competing with them. They were competing with their own projection of who they thought you were. They're realizing there never was competition. You were never competing with them. They were competing with their own projection of who they thought you were. They're realizing there never was competition. You were never competing with them. They were competing with their own projection of who they thought you were. And they feel like it's really unfair that they're being held accountable for it. They did not get the results they thought they would. The revelation that's breaking right now is about defamation. This is literal defamation coming through in the legal sense, not spiritual warfare dressed up as concern, not prayer requests disguised as gossip. Actual documented legally actionable defamation that someone orchestrated against you. Watch the woe is me energy pouring out of them now. They did not get the results they thought they would. This smear campaign they organized is being proven as exactly what it was, a coordinated attack on your character. They were competing with their own projection of who they thought you were. You want to know the most powerful part of your position right now? You didn't have to lift a finger to defend yourself. While they exhausted themselves building cases against you, you didn't have to lift a finger to defend yourself. While they exhausted themselves building cases against you, documenting their lies, spreading their poison, you simply continued being yourself. Your authenticity became their undoing. Spreading their poison, you simply continued being yourself. Your authenticity became their undoing. Your refusal to engage with their drama became the very thing that highlighted their obsession. This is about a relationship that went sour. Someone who had no love lost between you and them managed to rally an entire community to their cause. Managed to rally an entire community to their cause. This is about a relationship that went sour. Someone who had no love lost between you and them managed to rally an entire community to their cause. This is about a relationship that went sour. Someone who had no love lost between you and them managed to rally an entire community to their cause. Someone who had no love lost between you and them managed to rally an entire community to their cause. And here's the kicker. They honestly thought they were going to be victorious. Maybe in the past they have won similar battles. Maybe they've used the law or community pressure to destroy others before. But not this time. Not with you. The sun is illuminating everything now. There's been some sort of block that's happened for this specific person when it comes to defaming and slandering your character, your name, and your actual professional business. Not mind your business, but your literal livelihood. Evidence has come to light that a court, a judge, or a police officer is taking seriously. They're accepting this as evidence against your attackers. You see, when someone attacks your professional life, your means of making money, your reputation in business, that crosses from personal vendetta into criminal territory, they thought they were just gossiping, but they were actually committing crimes. They thought they were sharing concerns, but they were building a conspiracy case. Every business contact they tried to turn against you becomes a witness. Every client they attempted to steal becomes evidence. Every professional relationship they tried to poison becomes testimony against them. Someone was definitely trying to bully you. Someone was trying to knock you off your pedestal. That natural authority and abundance you carry triggered something primal in them. The wheel of fortune has reversed for them completely. What they thought was their lucky break in taking you down has become their worst nightmare coming true. The wheel of fortune has reversed for them completely. What they thought was their lucky break in taking you down has become their worst nightmare coming true. Not mind your business, but your literal livelihood. Evidence has come to light that a court, a judge, or a police officer is taking seriously. They're accepting this as evidence against your attackers. It crosses from personal vendetta into criminal territory. They thought they were just gossiping, but they were actually committing crimes. They thought they were sharing concerns, but they were building a conspiracy case. Every business contact they tried to turn against you becomes a witness. Every client they attempted to steal becomes evidence. Every professional relationship they tried to poison becomes testimony against them. Every client they attempted to steal becomes evidence. Every professional relationship they tried to poison becomes testimony against them. Someone was definitely trying to bully you. Someone was trying to knock you off your pedestal. The wheel of fortune has reversed for them completely. What they thought was their lucky break in taking you down has become their worst nightmare coming true. The wheel of fortune has reversed for them completely. What they thought was their lucky break in taking you down has become their worst nightmare coming true. This is happening fast. Whatever legal action is taking place is overwhelming in its speed and scope. Fast-moving action that's literally detrimental to this specific individual and the entire community that supported them. When it's time for divine justice, it can happen in the blink of an eye. This is happening fast. Whatever legal action is taking place is overwhelming in its speed and scope. The speed at which this is all crashing down on them is breathtaking. You've probably noticed how quickly things shifted. One day they were confident in their campaign against you. The next day, silence. One moment they were the righteous ones with community support. The next moment they're alone with legal documents. When it's time for divine justice, it can happen in the blink of an eye. This is happening fast. Whatever legal action is taking place is overwhelming in its speed and scope. Fast-moving action that's literally detrimental to this specific individual and the entire community that supported them. Fast-moving action that's literally detrimental to this specific individual and the entire community that supported them. Whatever legal action is taking place is overwhelming in its speed and scope. Fast-moving action that's literally detrimental to this specific individual and the entire community that supported them. This ruling is going to affect them in different ways, but every single one of them will feel it. You know what's beautiful about legal consequences? They're public record. Everything they tried to do to you in the shadows is being dragged into the light of a courtroom. Every whisper becomes a documented statement. Every rumor becomes evidence of malice. Every lie becomes perjury if they repeat it under oath. The very shadows they operated in have become the spotlight that exposes them. Think about the psychology of a mob that suddenly realizes they're individually liable. When they were together, they felt invincible. Your singular presence seemed small compared to their collective force, have become the spotlight that exposes them. Think about the psychology of a mob that suddenly realizes they're individually liable. When they were together, they felt invincible. Your singular presence seemed small compared to their collective force, but legal systems don't recognize mobs. They recognize individuals. Think about the psychology of a mob but legal systems don't recognize mobs. They recognize individuals. Each person who participated is now facing their own consequences. The group's courage has dissolved into individual terror. The group's courage has dissolved into individual terror. But legal systems don't recognize mobs. They recognize individuals. Each person who participated is now facing their own consequences. The group's courage has dissolved into individual terror. Someone is very angry, but more importantly, they haven't healed or learned the lesson from their experience with you. Meeting you, bumping into you, trying to take you down, it was all a karmic lesson they refused to learn. Someone is very angry, but more importantly, they haven't healed or learned the lesson from their experience with you. Meeting you, bumping into you, trying to take you down, it was all a karmic lesson they refused to learn. They're literally fighting their own demons while blaming you for their wounds. This person has a grudge against you that goes deep. They have an old way of thinking, what some might call traditional thinking. Very stubborn. They're going to be stubborn until the end. They repeat the same mistakes with increasing intensity. Each time they fail to destroy you, they try harder, leave more evidence, make bigger mistakes. Their stubbornness becomes the very rope they hang themselves with. But more importantly, they haven't healed or learned the lesson from their experience with you. The group's courage has dissolved into individual terror. Someone is very angry, but more importantly, they haven't healed or learned the lesson from their experience with you. Meeting you, bumping into you, trying to take you down, it was all a karmic lesson they refused to learn. They're literally fighting their own demons while blaming you for their wounds. This person has a grudge against you that goes deep. They have an old way of thinking, what some might call traditional thinking. Very stubborn. They're going to be stubborn until the end, literally digging their own grave with their refusal to stop. What some might call traditional thinking. Very stubborn. They're going to be stubborn until the end, literally digging their own grave with. They're going to be stubborn until the end, literally digging their own grave with their refusal to stop. They have an old way of thinking, what some might call traditional thinking. Very stubborn. They're going to be stubborn until the end, literally digging their own grave with their refusal to stop.